Karen's idea of folding a blanket, or if you have a bolster of some kind. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You want the long blanket, and you can fold it in thirds, so having it come halfway in, one edge come, long edge come halfway in, and then the other edge come halfway in, so that you have this long, skinny. And then when you lay down, you want this rounded edge. So there's a fringe edge and there's a rounded edge. You want the rounded edge at the top of your back pelvis, and then the fringed edge goes up towards your head. So that when you lay down, the top of your pelvis is right there. So your lower back is supported right at that edge, that rounded edge. And then lay yourself down. And if your head tips back, if your chin tips up like this, and your chin is higher than your forehead, shift your chin down and support that by taking the top part, the fringe part of your blanket, and just rolling it underneath your neck. And then keep your knees bent for the moment. And I'll cue you in a moment what to do next. So we're working a little bit on passive heart opening. So I'm just waiting for everyone to get settled before we do a little of the micro movements to help shift the body into balance on this blanket. All right. So then let's pay attention to the lower back first. And press your feet into the floor. Lift your pelvis just a teeny bit, so both your feet are flat on the floor. And then just lift your pelvis a little bit and shift your tailbone towards your heels. So you're elongating your low back, and then put your pelvis back down on the floor. So you should feel the little edge of that blanket right at the top rim of your pelvis. So right above that top rim where your lower back starts to curve. All right, so if you'd like to keep your legs bent, if that feels good, you can do that, especially if you have a tender low back. Otherwise, you can stretch your legs out and relax the legs on the floor and just let them go. So they tend to want to roll out to the side a little bit, which is just fine. And so then let's pay attention to the shoulders a little bit, because more often than not, we're rolled forward in our shoulders, like what Debbie was saying, so that the shoulders roll inward. So we want to shift that by turning the inner arms open. So your inner upper arms, your inner elbows, your inner wrists and palms turn open towards the ceiling, and you're rotating from the shoulder joint, not just from the elbows and wrists. So then you may feel like a little like, my shoulder blades are they feel almost like a little stuck on that blanket. So now you want to almost pick each one of them up and tuck them underneath. One at a time, just pick each shoulder blade up, tuck it underneath without pinching them. That's the main thing, is you don't want to pinch your shoulder blades together. You want to have a little bit of a space between, and then settle them back down flat, so that the fronts of the shoulders feel as if they're draping over the edges of your long, skinny blanket. Now you may find, especially if you have a little more opening in your shoulders, that this might not be, feeling like very much. And that's okay, because we're just starting class. You don't want to be extreme when you're first starting your practice, but just know that you can graduate up to 2 blankets stacked if you want, and get a little bit more of that opening. Okay, and then calming the face all around the eyes, the nose, the mouth. Let the lower jaw relax. Let your whole face release, all around the eyes, across the forehead. And then just let go of any busy thoughts that you have. You know, they'll keep coming back, but every time as you exhale, you can release the focus on the thoughts. So the thoughts will be there. They'll be like a little chitter chatter, just because that's what the mind does. But you can choose not to focus on what the chitter chatter is all about. You have an awareness that it's there, but your main focus is on your breath and right through the edges of the nostrils. So your inner drishti, which is your inner gaze, is right there at the edges of the nostrils, watching that air come in and out gently, quietly. And even if the mind does take hold and pulls your attention that way, once you notice it, just go right back to that focus of the breath moving in and out of the nostrils. And then allowing your shoulders to settle even more over the blanket, your arms becoming a little heavier, feeling the chest broad from the collarbones, from the center of the collarbones out. So right at the notch at the base of the neck and then out to the edges of the shoulders, feeling that opening there, like a horseshoe shape. And then as you inhale, feeling the rib cages lift. And then as you exhale, feel the rib cages settle a little farther apart from each other, as if they too are draping over the blanket edges. Take a few breaths there to use the breath from the inside out to help open up across the chest, across the collarbones, the fronts of the shoulders. And then let that relaxation come into the belly, the lower back, all around the waist. And then feel your foundation across the back of the pelvis, the sacral area, the big pelvic bones, some of the biggest bones in the body, along with the thigh bones. Just let them settle. So not only do we tend to curl in at the shoulders, but we do tend to curl in at the front of the pelvis. So the hip points, imagining the hip points now, as you inhale and feel your belly expand, as you exhale, the hip points releasing a little farther away from each other. So the space across the front of the pelvis from hip point to hip point is broader. And then whether you have your legs bent or straight, just allow that relaxation to go through the hip joints and down through the legs. A couple more minutes, a couple more breaths, not so much minutes, but breaths, to relax across the chest. Again, passive relaxation, passive opening. Just imagining from the center, even the center of your face, from between the eyebrows, down the center of your nose, center of your palate, center of your chin and throat, all the way down through your body, between the ribs, and down to the pubic bone, that everything is just broadening. Good. And then to come out of this, those of you who have your knees bent, straight, bend the knees, please. And then go ahead, and because we've just been so open across the chest, you're going to take one arm and slide it over your chest and then roll towards the arm that's still on the floor so that you don't shock your shoulder muscles. And then you might need to sit up, I don't know, but you slide that blanket back out from underneath you. So then when you roll back down, this might be an opportunity to catch your block too. You'll need your block and your strap close by, but the blanket should be out of the way. And so we're going to take the block and place it between the thighs. And bring the knees up towards the chest. And we're just going to take one hand on each knee. And have the heels in line with the knees. So the shins are parallel to the floor. And then the knees are right over the hips. And you're gently squeezing on that block. So you might already feel a little bit of action going on in the belly. And as you exhale, you're going to draw the navel down towards the floor and take the knees in towards the chest with that little squeeze of the block. Then as you inhale, very carefully taking the knees away from the chest, the heels are still in line with the backs of the knees, but don't let the lower back come up off the floor. Then as you exhale again, use that breath to draw the navel down towards the floor as the knees come in towards the chest. Gentle squeeze of the block. Inhale. Keep the heels in line with the backs of the knees as you take the knees away from the chest. Don't go farther than the knees over the hips, though. Keep the knee, that's your bumper. So the knees don't go beyond the hips. Exhaling them back in again. Inhale the legs out. Only as far as the hips, or even less than that's okay. And then exhale, drawing the knees in towards the chest. And then go ahead and bring the feet to the floor. Take the block out. Okay, and then let's go ahead and take your right knee in towards the chest. And just give it a circle. So right at the hip. So the knee goes around and with the hand on top, and the ball and socket of the hip is what's really making that circle. Good. And then go ahead and bring that knee in to center so it's in line with the hip. And at this point, if you have your strap close by, or you need your strap, take the strap around the back of that thigh and let's stretch this leg out. Inhale, stretch that leg up. Reach up through the heel, open the toes. And as you exhale, take the knee back in. So you can still use that core breathing on the exhale. Bring the heel up on the inhale, straightening your leg. And as you exhale, draw the navel down and bring the knee in towards the chest, as if that block is still there between the thighs. And again, inhale, take the leg up. And exhale back down. And this last time, inhale, take the leg up and leave it there. Keep it stretched up. And go ahead and do some circles in the ankle. So being careful so you can gently gaze at your leg if you have your eyes closed, and make sure that your whole leg isn't moving, but it's just the ankle that's moving. So if you're finding that's difficult, take your circles, your ankle circles, a little smaller, and then reverse the direction of the circles. Okay, good. And then go ahead and on your next exhalation, relax that leg back down again. Take the strap off and put that foot on the floor. Then grounding through your right foot, take your left knee in towards your chest and let's do some circles there. So we're circling at the hip. Your left hand is on your left knee, just sort of riding the circles around. And you're rolling around in that hip joint. So we're just warming up the hip joint. And what I actually forgot to say on the other side is reverse your circles. And make sure that your pelvis isn't wobbling back and forth as you do your circles. If so, make your circles smaller. You don't want to be rocking back and forth on your sacrum. Try to keep your strength in your abdomen as you roll the hip around. Good. And then go ahead and end with the knee in line with the hip. Find your strap. Put it around the back of that thigh, your left thigh, shoulders back and down. Remember, we're still keeping those shoulders open, like that blanket is still underneath us. Then on your next inhalation, stretch that leg up, open the toes, press up through the heel, and exhale. Take that knee in towards the chest. And again, inhale, stretching up into the back leg. And exhale down. So you're still grounding through the right foot. Make sure that right knee is still pointing towards the ceiling. Inhale, stretch that left leg up. Open the toes evenly. So you're gazing gently at the toes. Exhale that heel down. And last time, inhaling, taking the leg up and making sure that the leg is as long as you can get it. So you might need to press a little bit more into the strap. Then start to do your ankle circles, focusing on just the ankle, circling, not the knee, not the hip. And go both directions, about 4 or 5 times, 4 or 5 times circles in each direction. Very good. And then once you're done with both directions, on an exhale, bend that knee in and take your strap away and place your foot on the floor. Now place your hands on the lower belly, one below the belly button, one above the belly button. We're just going to do a little bit of breath work here before we take the next level of core work. So when you inhale, you can probably feel your belly, both upper and lower, pressing out into your hands. And then as you exhale, the belly drops down towards the floor. So as you place your hands there, also be sure that your shoulders aren't tense. It's just a couple breaths to feel that. Inhale the expansion of the belly underneath the hands, and then on the exhale, the contraction of the belly down towards the floor. Good. Now let's see if you can get a little bit more action on the exhalation. So really putting some effort. First of all, the inhale is expanding, and then as you exhale, there's like a zippering type of action from the pubic bone to the navel to the sternum. So both lower belly and upper belly are getting some action there. Your lower back will feel as if it's coming onto the floor a little more firmly when you get that action happening. So pubic bone to navel, navel to sternum. And there's a little hugging feeling around the waist, like a corset. So just a couple more breaths to feel that action. And your lower back becoming more engaged with the floor on the exhale. This is the foundation, really, of your core practice. Okay. Squeezing it down last time, and then take an inhale, release the hands, and put that block back in between the thighs. So you have the support of the floor. There was a request for lower back strengthening, but also lengthening, and we'll get to that too. But we're going to strengthen here by squeezing the block. So we're activating the core line with the inner leg activation, which includes the pelvic floor. So as you exhale with the block there, now see if you can activate your pelvic floor. So it's a little harder to access. It's a deeper muscle, but if you think about it as really literally the floor of the core in a roundish shape or diamond shape, then as you exhale, that diamond or circular shape becomes a little bit less in diameter. So it's almost like a purse string bag. And as you exhale, you're pulling on the purse string so that the top of that little drawstring bag will narrow. And then when you inhale, you can see if you can keep that hold. Okay, so finish that last exhalation where you have lower belly, upper belly, hug around the waist and the pelvic floor activating. And don't worry about it if you're not feeling it all in action. Usually one set of muscles is a little weaker than the rest. But keep that awareness as you take the knees back in line with the hips. So the knees come in towards the chest, but only as far as the hips. So from the knees to the hips is perpendicular to the floor, and from the knees to the heels is parallel to the floor. So you're making a right angle at the knees. So you have to lift the knees a little bit more. Now, on an exhale, take an inhale, make sure your shoulders stay relaxed. On an exhale, see if you can engage all those parts. Lower belly, upper belly, hug around the waist, and even the pelvic floor gets in there. And then on an inhale, take the knees back to in line with the hips. No farther than that, please. But keep the lower back on the floor. Don't let it pop up off the floor. Exhale and draw in the knees, activating lower belly, upper belly. Remember where your hands were and you were feeling that belly action? Feel it now. Inner arms are open. Keep the shoulders open. Inhale, take the knees away. If you feel the lower back come off the floor, then don't take the knees so far. You want that lower back to stay glued on the floor. Exhale, draw the knees in towards the chest. So lower belly, upper belly zipping up, literally zipping up in action. And then 2 more times. Inhaling, keep a gentle squeeze on the block, lower back on the floor. Exhaling the knees in, keep the heels up, keep the heels up. Keep the heels in line with the backs of the knees. And last time, shoulders relaxed, neck and jaw relaxed. We're working the belly. Exhale and take those knees in towards the chest. And then let's, on this inhale, come all the way back down, feet to the floor. Take the block out. And then take the knees in towards the chest, one hand on each knee. And now we're going to do hip circles on both sides. So the knees move away from each other and then they come in towards each other. So go about 4 or 5 times in one direction with these hip circles. Again, not letting the lower back come up off the floor. Make your circles smaller if you feel that. And then reverse the circles 4 or 5 times in the other direction. Beautiful. Okay, once you finish that 4th or 5th round, go ahead with knees together, bring the feet back on the floor, and have them at hip width. So if you look up, you just lift your neck a little bit and look up at your knees. They're pointing straight up towards the ceiling, and if you imagine your thigh bones in the middle, they're parallel to each other. And then let's go ahead and place your hands on your heart, or have your elbows on the floor. Let's just go over the arm movement here before we get into the full action. So the elbows are on the floor and your hands are on your heart. Some people feel better with their hands on their bellies or on their lower ribs. That's fine, whatever's most comfortable for you. And when I say on your heart, it's basically on your heart space. So across the center of your chest. And now just doing the arm movement for this. Remember how it felt to have the blanket underneath you and the flat shoulder blades? See if you can get your flat shoulder blades now, tucking them underneath. And then as you inhale, just widen your arms out so you're creating a wide V on either side of your body. The elbows are just a pivot place. So you just pivot on the elbows and widen the arms. Hands are wider than the elbows. And then as you exhale, just pivot again at the elbows and put the hands back on the chest. Okay, let's do that again. That's your hand movement. Let's get comfortable with that. Inhale and opening up. And you can even feel a little squeeze now of the upper back. So see if you can activate the upper back to lift away from the floor a little bit. And then as you exhale, let the lower back relax, upper back relax on the floor again. So we're not lifting the pelvis, you're just actually activating the upper back. On the inhale, open the arms. And now see if you can imagine those shoulder blades pressing up. So they're flat, and then they press up into the back. So you're lifting your heart space. And then as you exhale, let everything settle back down on the floor. Now let's go all the way down the spine. You have to activate your contact with your feet into the floor. So feel even across your feet, all the way across the toes and the center balls of the heels. Keep your thighs parallel to each other. And then on an inhale, go ahead and lift up from the bottom of the spine and all the way up to the back of the neck as the arms open and you activate the upper back. So you're active there, pressing the shoulder blades into the rib cages. And then as you exhale, now you set yourself down from the top down, from the back of the neck to the center of the upper back, lower back, and then finally the sacrum. So vertebrae by vertebrae, picking up your spine on an inhale, that's through the feet. Lift your tail and send your tail towards the backs of the knees. Keep your lower back long. And then once you get to the upper back, lift up through the shoulder blades. Press the shoulder blades into the upper back. And then as you exhale, slowly, slowly come down, vertebrae by vertebrae. Good. Okay. Last thing here is we're going to take the block again and put it between the thighs. And we're going to do the bridge just a couple more times, but activating the core as we do this. And we're going to stay up in the pose for a breath. So you have the block between your thighs. And I'm just going to talk for a moment before we do. You'll lift up into bridge and open the arms on an inhale. Then when you're in bridge, you'll exhale and activate those core muscles like we did when your back was on the floor, zippering up. Then you'll take an inhale when you're in bridge, arms are still open. And then as you exhale, you'll come all the way down again. Okay, so we're just going to go for one breath up there, but on the exhale is when you're activating the core muscles and using the block so that you can activate the pelvic floor. Okay, here we go. This is part of core work. And heart opening, I'm combining here. So press through the feet. And then as you inhale, pivot at the elbows and open the heart. Lift the pelvis up towards the ceiling and get the shoulder blades to press up. Then as you exhale, zipper up from the pubic bone to the navel, hug around your middle. And as you inhale, keep that strength at the pelvic floor. And as you exhale, slowly lower the pelvic, or sort of the whole spine down. The arms come back, hands on your chest center. Okay? So you want to feel, we're going to do it again, but I want you to just a reminder when we're up there and taking our exhalation, you really want to feel that hug around your waist, the zippering from the pubic bone to the navel, and also the pelvic floor. So we're getting all of those pieces in line, and then incidentally, we're strengthening your lower back as well as we do this. So we're getting everything in this one pose. Okay, here we go. Press through the feet evenly. Take your exhale and activate your core. Inhale and lift your pelvis, open your arms. Getting that opening in the chest, lift the shoulder blades. Exhale here. Hug around your middle. Feel that core set. Tightening up a little bit. Take your inhale. See if you can open the chest a little more. And then as you exhale, slowly, slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, set the spine down and the hands on the chest. Alrighty then, take the block out. And tuck the knees in, hands on each knee, and we'll just do a few knee to chest. Inhaling the knees away, exhaling the knees in. So that we just did some back strengthening, and now this is lower back lengthening. And then bring the feet to the floor. And let's go ahead and roll over to the side. Use your hands to push down to the floor and come up. How's everybody doing? How's everybody's lower back? We have thumbs up for yes, thumbs up down for not so good, and thumbs out to the side, kind of neutral. Okay, kind of neutral there, Pat. Okay. All right. Just as long as we're not feeling any pain, that's the main thing. Okay, so you all have a chair, right? Let's come up and go ahead and find your chair and place it out in front of you so that the seat is facing you. And you may need to move your camera a little bit so I can see all of you or most of you. Just want to know, does anybody have any wrist trouble? Anything in the wrists? Anybody dealing with wrist trouble? No? You're all good. Okay. All right. So standing in your mountain pose, facing your chair seat, roll those shoulders back and down and turn the palms open in front of you, just like you did when you were on the floor. So there's a little more chest opening there. Good. And then see if you can imagine that block between your thighs and give it a little squeeze and see if you can lift up the trampoline of your pelvic floor. Can you zipper on an exhale at the same time as the pelvic floor, the lower abdomen, zippering up. And then feel nice and tall through the center top of the head. So we're always defying gravity. And as we were talking about earlier, it's easy to just go with gravity and allow yourself to droop. So go ahead and just allow yourself to droop, your knees even bend. And then you can, we go through our lives and your head wants to look up. So then the back of the neck gets short and the front of the neck gets long and your arms turn in, your shoulders roll in. So this is a little bit of a depressing kind of and very uncomfortable posture. But a lot of us live this way, whether we're sitting or standing. So now press through the feet, and now the knees are bent, and use that lift of the thighs to open up the front of the pelvis like we did in bridge. So the tailbone is dropping down a little bit, and the pubic bone is lifting up in the front. Then roll the shoulders back and down, and remember tucking the shoulder blades against the ribs in the back. See if you can do that now. The upper back tends to hunch. Okay, then the head. You notice as the shoulders roll forward, the head wants to jut forward too. So see if you can bring that chin back, ears in line with the shoulders. Excellent. Okay, so now let's go ahead and, keeping all of those points in mind, take your left foot forward and your right heel back. So not so that the heel is on the floor, but if you'll notice, if you look in my little square there, my heel is lifted and it's going straight back. So it's not turned out and it's not turned in, but it's going straight back. Okay, so there's a little balance going on here, right? And then we're going to take the hands in front of the chest again. And if you feel any imbalance at all, the chair's in front of you, you can just touch down and touch the chair. So palms together, and now on an inhale, let's do that widening of the arms again, shoulder blades flattening into the back as you come down into a little lunge. And then coming back out, so the front leg straightens up a little bit. Then as you inhale, you're coming down into the lunge, opening the arms like your bridge pose, like we just did in bridge. And exhale. Take the hands together and zipper up. Keep the zipper there on the front of the pelvis as you inhale and come forward. So this is not an invitation to just let the belly drop forward towards the thigh. Keep the lift. And then finally coming back on an exhale. Let's go back down again. And then with this open chest, hinge at the hip crease and just place the hands on your chair. Place the hands on your chair, and now as you inhale, open the chest, so as if there's a string pulling from your sternum to the back of the chair, and you still have that little chin tuck. Good. And now on an inhale, you're going to lift, straighten up through the front leg, and as you exhale, come back down. So we're getting just a little bit of more of an opening in the front of the pelvis with the support of the chair. On an inhale, straighten the front leg a little bit. Your back heel is still lifted. And on an exhale, come down a little bit more. Okay, so now you're going to stay in this and see if you can open this up, maybe even up on the fingertips, on the front of the seat of the chair. Keep a nice long neck, and the back neck. Press through the back heel as if you're trying to push into a wall behind you. Take the shoulder blades and move them into the back. And then straightening the front leg a little bit. You can firm up your hands on the seat of the chair. Push off the back toes and step the feet together. 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. So now you're in a forward bend. Right? And now bend. So make sure your heels are underneath the buttock bones and that your wrists are underneath your shoulders, almost like you were kneeling on the floor. Then bend the knees. Bend the knees. And on an inhale, lift your tail and take the chest forward. So this is cat-cow. And then as you exhale, round your tail. So here's the stretch. So stretch the lower back, stretch the back neck. And on an inhale, here's the strength. Strengthen the low back. Lift your buttock bones. Open the chest. There's that string again. From the sternum to the chair. Exhale and tuck the tail, round the back. Broaden the shoulder blades. And then coming back, inhale, open the chest, the shoulder blades press down towards the ribs and forward. And now on an exhale, just come to neutral. Neutral spine. Then take one hand on each hip and inhale and swing the spine up tall and legs straight. Okay, go back to your perfect mountain pose for you today. Rolling the inner arms open, broad across the chest, squeezing your imaginary block. And the little chin tuck so that the back of the neck has a little curve forward but feels nice and long. Almost as if you have balloons tied to the base of your skull and they're lifting the base of the skull up towards the ceiling. Feeling a very lofty there. Good, now let's do the other side. So you take the right toes forward in line with the front seat of your chair and the back foot, left foot back. And the heel is off the floor. And again, your chair is there if you need to balance yourself to get in this position, but then bring your spine tall. Good, so the back heel feels as if it's pressing into something. So you really want a lot of action in that back leg. Hips face forward, palms together in front of the chest, shoulders roll back and down. And then on an inhale, let's come down into the little lunge and open. So this is like half bridge, like the bridge we just did on the floor. You got one leg back, stretching in the pelvis. Exhale, come out of the lunge, hands together. Inhale, opening, keep a nice tall back neck. Into the lunge. Exhale, back out of the lunge a little bit, palms together, keep the shoulders back and down. And then inhale, opening there, and stay. Then inhale, open the chest a little more, flattening the shoulder blades in. And as you exhale, take the hands onto the chair. So see if you can get your shoulders to stay back and down. And we're just going to go up and down a little bit. Inhale, coming out of the lunge a little bit. Exhale, press through the back heel, come down into the lunge. This is part of opening the whole front body, is that back leg, front groin area. Exhale down, zippering up, the lower belly, upper belly. Inhale back up, out of the lunge a little bit. Exhale back down, push through the back heel. Good, last time, inhale up, And exhale into your lunge deeply. And then firm your hands up on the seat of the chair. Keep your chest open. Push off the back toes and step the feet together. Not together, but in line with each other, so that the heels are underneath the buttock bones, shoulders over the wrists. Good, as if you're kneeling on the floor. Feel even across the feet. Bend the knees. Let's do a little more cat-cow here. So as you inhale, you're going to lift your buttock bones, open the chest. Don't overlift the chin. You want a soft curve in the back neck. Exhale, keep the knees bent and round the tail underneath. So you're tucking your tail, letting your head bow. Inhale, open the chest. Lift your tail. Exhale, round your lower back. Draw your pubic bone up with that little zippering action on the exhale. Inhaling through the nose, open the chest, shoulders back, soft curve in the neck. Last time, exhaling, rounding the low back, keep the knees bent. And on an inhale, just come to neutral. And then using your core strength, nice and even through the feet, one hand on each hip, swivel up at the hip crease, straighten the knees, and stand again in your Tadasana, which is mountain pose. Nice and even there. And then let's go ahead and, in being stable in your lower body, do some shoulder circles. So what happens, so you're going to just, you're not moving around in the hips so much, but up here in the chest where you're getting into, so I said circles, but undulation is good too, because undulation takes you out of your patterns, unglues the sticky spots, gets lubrication in the shoulders, so try to feel different patterns. And also noticing where it feels a little crunchy and stuck. So I worked with a fascia specialist, and she says, her name is Anita Bozer, and she says that when your fascia, the connective tissue, so you can keep moving around as I talk, and you can also start moving your neck in there too if you want. Let your shoulders relax and start moving your neck a little bit. Just nice and gentle. She said when your fascia and your connective tissue are in good health, it's kind of like Jell-O, where it feels smooth and slick. And in fact, working with cadavers, that's sort of the consistency of that layer of the connective tissue layer. But when it's not healthy and it feels stuck, like you might feel like clicks and pops, that's when it's like fruit leather. So when it's kind of dried out, you know, and so as we move around, the main thing is by moving around, you actually will hydrate that fruit leathery spots and get them more Jell-O-like. Okay? All right, shaking that out. Okay, now this is where I was asking about wrists. We're gonna work a little bit more on core here and have your block, and I'm just gonna show you what we're gonna do. So I want you to concentrate on what you're doing rather than trying to see what I'm doing. So the chair stays the same where you're facing it, and you'll put your block between the thighs, okay? And so just watch for a moment, don't do. I want you to, and then if you have questions, I can answer them. So again, we're gonna start in our mountain pose, palms open. Then to get into our forward bend position, you're gonna bend the knees first, then hinge at the hip crease, spine stays long, and then place the hands on the chair. Then from here, you're just going to tiptoe back with that block between the thighs, so just a little tiptoeing, and get nice and long through the side body, reaching out through the hips, heels pulled down towards the floor. Then, so I have my hands on either side of the chair. That's a good position. We're going to come into your plank. So you're one long line from the top of the head to the heels. And you want to make sure the shoulders are still over the wrists like you were in cat-cow. So you might need to walk the feet back or the hands forward if your shoulders are forward. Okay, so we'll go back and forth like that a few times so that lubricates all that sticky stuff in the shoulder joints, going back and forth. And then the second part is to stay like we did in bridge. This is an inhale. Then as you exhale, you're going to zipper. See if you can zipper up here. Squeeze the block and take your inhale. And then as you exhale, go back. Okay, so then you'll tiptoe back again to come out. So this can be a little hard on the wrists. Might make sense for us to break up those two parts and give the wrists a break. So I might be doing that for you. Okay, so any questions? Okay, I can you can unmute yourself if you have a question. Mary, do you have a question? Or are you just moving your camera? Okay, just making sure there's not a question. All right, so standing tall in your Tadasana. So that's our mountain pose. It's nice and neutral. Where you feel, so mountain pose or standing posture is not a passive way of being. You are engaged. You're engaged up to the thighs, lifting the kneecaps. The feet are engaged in the floor evenly. You are lifting up from the front of the pelvis and actively lengthening through the tailbone, and then lifting up through the spine as if a string is pulling you up through the center top of the head. Shoulders rolled back and down. So you want to remember all this. It's very similar in your plank pose. Inhale here, and as you exhale, bend the knees. Then swivel at the hip crease, keeping the spine long. Lead with your chest and place your hands on either side of the seat of the chair. Make sure you have a stable chair and that it's not going to slide out. Okay, so it's up against a wall or all four legs are on your mat. If you need to adjust, please do right now. Then tiptoe back so that your heels are farther back than your hips and you're in a down dog position. So you're lifting your hips and stretching from the wrists to the side hips. And you're not letting your middle droop. Now on an inhale, come forward. Just getting that feeling of plank. One long line from the top of the head to the heels, shoulders back. Exhale, reach through the hips and send the heels back and down. And again, inhale, coming forward. Shoulders over the wrists. Squeeze the block. Shoulders back. Exhale all the way down. Heels back and down, hips up. Okay, now let's do that one breath in the middle. So as you inhale, come forward. Squeeze the block, and then as you exhale, get your zipper on, pubic bone to navel, navel to sternum. Take an inhale, lengthen from heels to center top of the head, and exhale, push the hips up and the heels back and down. Okay, so now here you can kind of let up on the wrists a little bit, lengthen them, don't grip so hard. We're going to do that one more time, that plank. Inhale, coming forward, get a good grip on the side of the chair. Come forward into your plank. One long line. Exhale, zipper up. So like you're trying to pull the block up towards your pubic bone. Inhale, lengthen from heels to the center top of the head. Exhale, and push the hips up and the heels back and down. Then look up at your chair and tiptoe forward with that block there. So your heels are underneath your hips and your shoulders are over your wrists. Keep the block there, bend the knees, squeeze the block, hands on each hip, and swivel up from the hip crease. Stand up tall, back in your Tadasana with the block there. Good. And then let's go ahead and bend the knees, release the block. And we've had that block there. We just did, you can do a little bit of hip circles. So stretching the lower back, but it's kind of a belly dancer. You don't want to just let your belly fall forward. You want to do it with some integrity. So making sure that your chest is still open as you hula hoop around one direction about 4 or 5 times, and then switch directions and hula hoop the other way, making sure those shoulders stay open. So sometimes even having your hands on your hips can help the shoulders stay open instead of droop. Good. Okay. And then after doing both directions, just stand and just feel for a moment. Good. And then you can remove the chair. If you want to have it handy for your shavasana, your resting pose, you can. We're just going to do one last little bit here with the opening of the chest with our locust pose, or sometimes known as cobra. So you can just watch for a moment. Because if you're lifting your head and trying to see me on the screen, it's kind of hard on the neck. So just watch for a moment. And I like to have a blanket underneath me, especially with bonier pelvises and that. It just feels a little cushier. So you're welcome to do that. And so just watch for a moment. I'm going to have my head down, so it might be hard to hear me, but I'm going to keep my head lifted a little bit. You're going to place the palms back. So remember when we were in mountain pose, you had your palms facing forward. This is the same way, except for the palms are in line with the floor. And then when you come up into cobra pose, you're going to have the palms on the floor. And as you inhale, you're going to lift the shoulder blades. Remember to keep the back neck long, and then exhale down. So we'll do that a few times. And then if you lower back is okay with it, you're going to lift your arms away from the floor. Okay, so those are the 2 variations. I just wanted you to see that. And then go ahead and come down onto your bellies. Palms are on the floor, so you're actually rotating the shoulders open when you do that. Go ahead and put your backs of your hands on the floor and feel the difference. The backs of the hands are on the floor, your shoulders roll forward. Now turn the palms towards the floor with the pinky side towards your body. Now the shoulders roll open. Ground through the tops of the feet, front of the pelvis. Take your exhale and get that zipper happening. Same place, lower belly. And then as you inhale, keep the palms lightly on the floor. As you lift your chest, keep your chin tucked a little bit. Nice long line through the center top of the head, and exhale, slowly roll down. And then again, exhaling, activating your belly. Inhale, coming up. So the buttock muscles will be working. They will feel firm, but not clench. And exhale down. So this is part of your core. This is part of keeping out of the droop. And now on this time, when you lift up, if your back is not tender today, you can lighten up your hands a little bit. Have them hover just 1/4 inch off the floor and just feel that. Is that okay for you? And then exhale, come back down again. Take a breath here. Exhaling to activate your core, front of the pelvis engaged at the floor. And now inhale, if that little 1/4 inch was okay for you, see if you can bring your hands up just like 1/2 inch. Does a 1/2 inch feel okay? Squeeze the shoulder blades towards each other. And exhale down. And on our last time, take an exhale, inhale, exhale here. And then on an inhale, come up. And you're going to come up just in your comfort zone. So you're going to twist the thumbs up towards the ceiling, squeeze the upper back a little bit, and exhale and come down. And then, however is best for you, you're either going to just roll over where you're at, or you're going to push your hips back. One way or the other, you're going to carefully, safely find yourself on your back again. Okay, so we just did back strengthening, and now we're going to do back stretching. And so you're going to take your knees in towards your chest again and do a little bit of that knee to chest pose, knees in on an exhale, knees away on an inhale, back and forth. Now the next time the knees come in, take your hands on the backs of each side. Keep your shoulders relaxed. And on an inhale, send the legs up, so they might need to move away from your body a little bit to get the legs straight. Then inhale, open the legs wide. And exhale, squeeze the legs together. Like that block is there and you're trying to squeeze it to a pencil. And then again, inhale, opening the legs wide, stretch out through the heels, open the toes. And as you exhale, squeeze, 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 like a squishy ball is there. You're trying to squeeze all the air out between in the ball. And then 2 more times. Inhale, reach out through the heels, open the toes. Exhale, lower back, draws down towards the floor. So you're using your corset action to get that lower back, keep it engaged as the legs go wide. If your lower back comes off the floor, you can bend your knees a little bit. Exhale, squeeze, 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 squeeze till you come to center. Take an inhale here with the legs lifted. Exhale, take the knees in towards the chest. And do a little bit so your hands are on your knees, feet are off the floor, and you're doing lower back circles. So you're actually letting yourself kind of roll around on your lower back like a cat in the sand in the sun. So rolling around one way, so you're kind of massaging your low back a little bit. And then the other way, 4 or 5 times in each direction, doing your circles. Good. Now, you can bring your feet to the floor. And if you would like, you can go back to your folded up blanket underneath your spine. Or if this works just fine for you, you just lengthen your legs out and go from here. You're welcome to do that. You can put a little lift underneath your knees, which actually helps the lower back to relax. It helps the shoulders to relax. So I want you to get into a position that feels good for you. Take your time. You can even put your legs up on the chair. And then settle yourself in your resting pose. So feel your whole skeleton settling down on the floor. Feel yourself quieting. We've done a lot of action in our poses today. The core work and the heart opening work a lot of times are very stimulating. So in allowing yourself to settle, soft across the forehead, between the brows, all around the eyes, across the cheekbones. Let the lower jaw relax, but keep the lips closed and breathe softly through the nose. You have that focus there right at the edges of the nostrils. Keep your mind in every moment of every breath. And if it wanders, which it inevitably does, because that's what the mind will do, just bring it back to the sensation of the air moving in and out of the nostrils. Softening the shoulders, tucking them underneath if you need to. If you notice that they're starting to round up towards the ceiling, tuck them underneath without pinching the shoulder blades, making sure the inner arms are open towards the ceiling, the inner elbows, inner wrists, and palms with the fingers lightly curled. Let your whole chest area settle and broaden, and the arms feel heavy. Let that relaxation come into the rib cages, letting them settle a little bit farther apart from each other with every exhalation. And then softening in the belly, around the waist, the lower back, back of the pelvis. All around the pelvis, the pelvic bones, settling more deeply towards the floor, broadening across the front of the pelvis. And then all the way down the legs. Feel softness at the hips, down through the thighs, the knees, the lower legs, finally the ankles and the feet. Just take a few moments to feel that heart center, your own heart center. And imagining it like a lotus flower there. And bring warmth to the lotus flower of your heart. Warmth of kindness and love towards yourself. No matter what's going on in your life or how you're feeling, try to go beyond that and feel the preciousness of your heart. And send your lotus flower in the center of your chest some sun, some inner sun. Sometimes we need encouragement from the outside to create this warmth. Friends, movement, good books, music. Whatever warms your heart, bring it into you now. Allow it to nourish this lotus flower of your heart. Feeling the warmth and the nourishment, just like what every good plant needs. Good soil, rain, sun, love, attention. And as you continue to pay attention to your heart center and your breath, feel that each breath is nourishing this heart center. You can feel the opening of the chest on the inhale, and one little petal opens up a little bit more. And as you continue to breathe and visualize, the petals of your lotus heart slowly start to open. You can imagine the color or colors of your lotus flower, the shape of it, size of it, maybe even the fragrance of it. As it starts to open more and more with your attention, your love, and the visualization of this warmth in the center of your heart. Until you find that you are admiring the most beautiful lotus flower in the center of your chest. That is you, your heart, your own inner light, blossoming. Just be with that for a few more breaths. And then bending at the elbows, place your hands over that heart center. You have your left hand there, your right hand on top. Feeling the warmth of your hands. Letting yourself fill with gratitude. Whatever else comes to you that's nourishing for this place in yourself. And then releasing your hands, and if your legs are straight, bend the knees. And crossing one arm over the chest, and then roll towards the arm that's still on the floor to come up. Use your hands to push into the floor to sit up. And then just take a moment upright before we launch into the rest of our day. It's always good to just take a moment. Place the hands together in front of the chest. This is the gesture of gratitude, the Anjali Mudra. Letting your heart fill with gratitude for who you are, for your body, your breath, your mind, your spirit. For this practice of yoga that helps us integrate all those parts of ourselves into wholeness and health and happiness. And anything else you'd like to bring into your heart this morning with gratitude. And then gently open your eyes. And the light within me greets the light within you. Namaste. Okay, ladies. Hopefully that did the trick today for you.
Boy,
Yes, thank you.
yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Great
And it
class.
is recorded. In fact, I'm going to stop recording now. And